Hello, everybody. This is Mary Hollywood at the Crossroads, and today I need the help of my ladies of direction to talk about this defund the police. There's a huge argument for the past week in terms of, the right terminology that we should be using in order to get results from these protests. So I'm definitely torn between this. We'll discuss it. And I want to hear from you guys. What do you think should be the right terminology? Is defund the police the right term, or is there something better that we could be using? Kim, I know that you have family that's in the police force or was.
Yeah.
Have you had these conversations with them, or how do you feel? How do they feel?
I was texting back and forth with my brother a little bit the past couple weeks during the rioting and the protests and just the way that the police have been acting. But having had so many conversations regarding politics, I know where he stands. I'm not going to change his mind. Mm-hmm. He does. He definitely thinks the officers were wrong in George Floyd's case. That he said that broke his heart and everything. But asking him to go beyond that for the whole structural system to be examined and reimagined, that's a non-starter. Mm-hmm. And even with my mom, we've been talking about it a little bit, and she asked me what I think about the defund the police, and she's like, defending immediately the police department, that we need the police and there'd be anarchy. And it's like, well, they've been defunding education, and I showed her one of the comics that was like, here's $1 million, buy police stuff. And then, oh, but we don't have money for the schools, so and then you have cops with all the gear behind them saying like, don't get into trouble, so I just I get so passionate about it when I speak with her that she gets upset because, we butt heads, and she's a Democrat, like she's a Biden Democrat. And there was an analogy that I think might have gotten her a little bit, was where it's like, well, there's some bad cops, and somebody had written, there can't be like bad cops, just like there can't be bad airline pilots. You can't be like
that was a perfect analogy.
It's like and also just how the system of policing was built on keeping slavery alive, or policing that aspect of society rolled into. So I was just like, no, we need to break it all down and rebuild it. And there are some models for that, like in Camden, New Jersey. And then the whole thought about we need a better word than defund, I feel like that's like the narrative. That's the narrative. And the people got a hold of the narrative when they went out into the streets and started burning stuff down and showing their power. And now that's not good enough for the establishment, or, a lot of white people are saying, I just don't like that word, defund. And it's like, well, guess what? You don't get to say anything because this is not about you. And it's not your voice that has been elevated because of the wrongs and because of the mass movement, that I definitely feel like defund the police. Yes, let's reinforce that. Let's stand behind our Black brothers and sisters and let their voice be heard. That's how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah, it's not up to us to decide what, whatever they want to use, we amplify their voice, right? I mean, it's not our fight. And that's part of the problem, is the people that are having the problem with the defund of the police aren't the ones that are having the problem with the police. Mm-hmm. Right? If you're not dealing with the police every day, then you don't have, like, where are you basing your definition of what the police are? Television? right? I mean, how many times have you called the police? What is your experience with the police? I believe, you know, we've seen the experience. We saw the video of George Floyd. You know, we've seen what that is. I haven't, you know, I don't know. I don't watch Cops, you know, but I mean, that's TV, right? So to me, what people are thinking of as the police isn't actually based on reality. That's not what it is now. It hasn't been that for a really long time. And I think the main point is that the police are being asked to do jobs that, you know, they're not qualified to do, which, you know, and it's because, you know, there are no social workers to step in and do this stuff, and that's who should be called. And that's what they're saying. Fund the social workers so that they can do this work. Because what's happening is, I read a statistic today on Twitter, and I think it was from 2016, but I'm sure it's not better, that like 50% of people who are arrested have some kind of disability. So, you know, it's basically like, I saw some cases with, you know, schizophrenia, you know, mental illness, where people are, you know, becoming violent or, you know, disruptive, and they call the police, and it becomes, you know, just the situation just escalates because they don't have the skills to deal with a situation like that. Where if you called a social worker or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whoever it is, you know, that has the skill set to deal with that situation, they could de-escalate it. And that's the problem, is that the police are escalating these situations. They're not de-escalating. And so we need to fund the people that can de-escalate the situations. And I don't have a problem with the language. Like I said, I don't get to choose the language. I'm not the one with a problem with the police. So, and I think, I mean, what else is there? Everything else that they come up with, it sounds like,
watering it down.
Yeah, but I do agree with having a solution. Like, defund the police, fund peace. Like, I do believe in presenting those two sides.
Yeah, I was going to say that we played around with a couple of hashtags, trying to present a positive solution of what would be, you know, the side by side with defund the police. And we came up with, you know, fund peace in the end. I think most people like that one. And I like thinking from like a marketing perspective and like trying to sell this idea. Like I said, we played around with, you know, maybe would there be a better term? But as you get into it and the history and everything that's happening, everything that's being exposed, it's like, we don't want to dilute this message. Defund the police means exactly that. Like, how much money is going to the police force, and how much money is going to everything else? So when we talk about defund the police, it's like, it gives everyone that shock, you know, like the moderates feel that shock. But that's the conversation starter. That's where we can open up. And I feel like everybody that wants to change this word now, my feeling is that it's just everyone's being lazy. Like, you don't want to discuss and, you know, what are the solutions then? Let's open it up. And I feel that if we change the terms, we're not going to have these conversations anymore.
Like the LA budget, is that, it's all backwards, right? But
no, I can see it perfectly. Yeah. Can you imagine $3 billion? That's LA. In New York, it's $6 billion.
Yeah.
We're defunding public education. We don't have healthcare for all. Like, it's insanity to me. It's about, I'm perfectly fine. Let's talk about money. Something that I learned today that I wanted to, I don't know if you guys heard about this, because we know, one, the budget is humongous compared to everything else. But also something that I heard about it, but I didn't look into it. But today on Twitter, I'll put this up here. Emily Galvin Almanza, she's a criminal defense lawyer, and she brought up overtime. And she's a public defender, and she says that every time that she has a case, and it's a silly arrest, something that, like, they said he had drugs, but in the end he didn't have drugs, ruined the kid's life, and they saw if his shift is over at 6 p.m., he made the arrest at 5:30. And this is over and over and over again. And these police officers are raking in overtime. And I mean, this is millions and millions of dollars. So not only are they aggressive and violent, but they're also, destroying innocent people's lives, or for, minor things, abusing the system to get overtime. Like, to me, that's insane.
At some point you have to, if people can abuse the system that much, you have to change the system.
Right.
Yeah. That's how I feel. Something else in regards to money, if we're talking defunding the police, is the pensions. Even if you are accused and you go to jail, if you're a police officer, you're still entitled to your pension. The police officer that killed Floyd, it's about $1 million pension that he's still entitled to, even if he gets arrested. So there's no accountability. It's not about, a lot of people are arguing that it's, we're being divided, that it's racial. If you look at the stats, more white people are killed than Black people. Okay, that's an even better argument to defund the police. Then let's not make it about race, even though it is. If we look at the numbers closely in the population, it is totally skewed for especially poor Black and brown people. But then if they're killing white people, then why aren't you fighting with us to change the system?
Well, you should be fighting no matter who it is, but the whole prison system, and it's just a larger comment too. I mean, now they're saying defund the Pentagon, which makes me happy, because what we're getting at is what Marianne Williamson was getting at during her campaign, is that we're a violent society, and where you put your attention and where you put your resources is what you're going to get out. And we put all our money into war and crime, so and they're lucrative for people, but they're not creating a good society. And they're not lucrative, they're lucrative for just a few people and not for all of us. So it's just, to me, I love that defund the police is leading to defund the Pentagon, because that's the conversation we need to have, is why all the violence.
Yeah, I think the movement to defund the police is the groundswell moment where people are realizing it's all connected. And, we live in this police state. We've accepted it over time. We fund it with no questions asked, because we're under this false illusion that they're somehow protecting us from something, when in reality, they're protecting the ruling elite's property from us. So, I mean, it's definitely a moment of awakening for the masses.
So I think that now what defund the police is, I think everybody's afraid of, it's like an overnight thing. Like, okay, we're going to take all your money away. And now, like you said, anarchy. Oh, Bubble Guppy's cool. And what people aren't willing is to imagine funding peace and working towards a society where police won't be needed the way that it is today. So it's about reimagining what society can be and starting the work today, because we've been, a lot of people are saying, oh, they're new to defund the police, but this has been going on for over 50 years. Thank you, honey. My chapstick. You want some? Okay. Sorry, guys. Thank you guys for discussing this with me. I'm not crazy thinking the way that I am. And I hope that, this is an invitation for us to just have the conversation, not just, brush it off because you don't like the term or you think you're afraid that it's going to help Trump. I think that everything is on our side, even for Republicans and, conservatives who are afraid, they are so quick to criticize China and North Korea for their executions. What is our police doing today? And, if you don't like the word defund the police, you are free to state your case.
Right.
But I hope that also you are willing to listen to everybody else who does believe that defund the police is the best terminology to go with. So thank you, girls, so much for talking to us here, meeting us at the crossroads. And I'll see you again next week.
In Hollywood, everything is good.